Okay, so for level 3, numbers 1 through 4, sorry, are asking if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we need to find the slopes of each pair of lines. For number 1, we have line WX. So I'm going to find the slope using the slope formula. I'm going to label one of my points x1, y1, my other point x2, y2. And now I'm going to find the slope for line WX. Notice how I'm labeling my work so that way I know what each slope, what line each slope is for. And so now I do y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So I wind up with a -3 over a 0, which is an undefined slope. So what that means is that this is a vertical line on the graph. Now I'm going to find the slope of line YZ. I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2, using my slope formula, y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1, minus a -2 is a +2. I wind up with 0 over 6, which is a slope of 0. So this is a horizontal line on the graph. And so we have a vertical and a horizontal line. What that means is that the lines are perpendicular because one of them is vertical and the other is horizontal. Great. Moving on to the next one, number 2, same thing. I'm going to find the slope of line KL by labeling K x1, y1 and L x2, y2. My slope would be y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1 minus a -4 is really a +4. So I have a -7 over 2 as my slope for that line. And then I'm going to find the slope of line MN by labeling the points x1, y1, x2, y2. And so I have y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And I wind up with the slope of -2 over -8, which reduces to a +1/4. These slopes are not opposite reciprocals, they're not the same. So these two lines are neither parallel or perpendicular. The slopes are not the same or opposite reciprocals. All right, my next one. Same thing here. Finding the slope of line BC. Labeling my points x1, y1, x2, y2 using the slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I wind up with a 4/2, which is a slope of 2. So finding the slope of DE now. x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus a y1 minus a -6 would give you a +6. And then x2 minus x1 minus a -2 is a +2. So I have a 10 over a 5, which is a slope of 2. So since the slopes are the same, these lines are parallel. And then our last problem on this set of problems is number 4. I'm going to solve each of these equations for y. So my first equation, I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I wind up with a 5y is equal to a -3x plus 2. I then divide by 5 on both sides to get a y is equal to a -3/5 x plus 2/5. So for my next line, same thing. Oh, I don't need to subtract 3x because y is over here. So all we need to do to isolate y is divide by -5. I'm going to rewrite this as y is equal to, and this is a -3/5 x minus 6/5. So your slope of the blue line is -3/5. Slope of the red line is -3/5. So since they have the same slopes, these lines are parallel. Okay, moving on to the next page for 5, 6, and 7, we're going to be writing equations. So for number 5, we're writing the equation of the line that's perpendicular to the x-axis. So what that means is the x-axis is a horizontal line. So perpendicular to the x-axis would make this a vertical line. And a vertical line is always in the form of x is equal to a number, and the number that it is equal to is the x value of the point that it goes through. So that is my equation of my line. Number 6, we are writing the equation of the line through point A, perpendicular to LT, and we're doing this in point slope form. So I do need to find the slope of LT. I'm going to label T x1, y1, and L x2, y2. It doesn't matter which one you label, x1, y1, or x2, y2. Using my slope formula, I'm going to do y2 minus y1 minus a -1 is really a +1, all over x2 minus x1. So I wind up with a 10 over a -4 slope, which actually reduces to a -5/2. Since I want a line perpendicular, then I need to use the slope that's the opposite reciprocal of -5/2, and that's going to be a +2/5. And then we want it to pass through point A. 7 is the x value, 5 is the y value, and we're writing this in point slope form. So that's in the form of y minus the y value of the point that it passes through, so 5, is equal to your slope times x minus the x value of the point that it passes through. This is your equation in point slope form, and that's all they asked you to do. Number 7 says we're given this line, and we want to write our equation in slope intercept form through point A perpendicular to AB. So I'm going to find my slope of AB. I'm going to label it x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 minus a -7 is really a +7, all over x2 minus x1. A 7 plus a 2 is a 9. An 8 minus a 5 is a 3. 9 divided by a 3 gives us a +3 slope. But we want the line, the equation of the line, to be perpendicular to that line. So we need the opposite reciprocal slope of 3, and that's going to be -1/3. And then we want it to travel through point A. So you can write it in point slope form and then convert it into slope intercept form, or you can use slope intercept form right away. Remember, there's always 2 methods for these types of problems. Just because we have time in this video, I'm going to remind you of both the methods. So method 1 would be, I'm going to write my equation in point slope form. So y minus a -7 is really a +7 is equal to a -1/3 times x minus 5. And so then distributing the -1/3 in, I get a y plus a 7 is equal to a -1/3 x plus a 5/3. Isolating y by subtracting 7 from both sides, I get y is equal to a -1/3 x. To combine a 5/3 with a 7, I need to convert this 7 with a denominator of 3, so that's a 21/7. Or sorry, it's a 21/3. I apologize. And so a 5/3 minus a 21/3 is a -16/3. And that's your equation in slope intercept form. that is method 1. Method 2, remember, is you can write your equation in slope-intercept form, which is y is equal to mx plus b. So my y value of a is -7, so I put that in for y. I put my slope in for m, and I put my x value of a in for x. And I leave b alone because I need to find b. I need to find my y-intercept. So then multiplying these two together, I get a -7 is equal to a -5/3 plus a b. And then I would add the 5/3 over. Same thing, to convert or to add these together, I need to convert the 7 into a fraction. So this is going to be a -21/3 plus a 5/3, which is a -16/3. And that is your b. So then I can write my equation in slope-intercept form. Y is equal to my slope, which was -1/3, x, plus my b, or in this case it would be minus b. And notice I get the same answer regardless of which method I used, and it is up to you which method you would like to use. All right, now we are moving on to level 4.